I don't know if I want to do this. Lord, if I need to do this, please let me know, because this is legit to your will. The thing with testimonies is that they're never ending. They're just short snippets of our stories that are all bottled up into a beautiful episode. Today, I share with you my testimony, not because I think that I am at a perfect place, but because I've overcome some things that I really hope will help some people. No, I'm really nervous. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about this, but the Holy Spirit has convicted me to talk about this. So if you're interested to hear my story, to hear my testimony of how I overcame grief, depression, pornography, masturbation, and all of that jazz, keep on watching. God, girl, that's who I be, from the top of my head to the soles of my... Hey church girl and guys who watch this, my name is Dara Marie. For those who are new and for those who are regular people, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you. For the best Christian lifestyle advice, content, subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you never ever miss another video. So let's get right into it. I am only sharing this because I think that it will help somebody else. I went through a lot of back and forth whether or not I should have shared it, and I was like, Jesus, no, we're not gonna do this. We are going to maybe write this in a book someday, or because I've always just felt as if I've always wanted to guard against oversharing, one, and I've always felt as if people go through worse and people have worse struggles, so why would you even try to share this? But I really hope it helps someone. So we're going to start from the fact that I had a really good childhood. I was an only child. I never really had to share anything. I never really realized I was an only child because I always have people around me. I always had everything that I really wanted and everything I needed and wanted, because my mother made sure to provide that for me. I was a good kid. I got good grades, everything you could think about. You know, I wasn't ever hungry, any of those things. Now my father migrated and he was working in Cayman Islands. He wasn't really a big part of my life at that point, but he would come and he would go, so I never really knew him that well. And then at some point he would come back and then he would like bring us to the beach. I remember like every Emancipation Day is a holiday in Jamaica for those who aren't Jamaicans and are watching this, and he would come and he would bring us to Salt River, which is a place in Clarendon, a little mineral bath place, and it was just our thing. So I have 3 siblings, those are his children, and he would bring us all there every summer. So we're coming up, and now I'm 11. Decided, okay, I want to get baptized. So I was born and raised in the church. I was always a church kid, doing stuff in church, paying attention, very excited about singing on the choir. I was never one of those children who they had to force to do anything, because I was just genuinely interested in doing stuff. And I think it cultivated the ability in me to feel comfortable speaking to a crowd, feel comfortable standing up in front of everybody and giving a point or whatever. So that's what church did for me. I loved going to church. That's where all my friends were too. I never really that's where all the cool kids hung out, at church. So that's what our church was. I was a very mature 11. So you know how sometimes people think that I'm way older than I am now? I have always been like that because I grew up around my mother, and we weren't friends, because she always say, I'm not your little friend, I want your little friends, but we were pretty close, and I was always very mature. You know, you hang out around a lot of older people, you have an older mindset. So I remember wanting to be baptized, understanding what it really means to love Jesus and everything. So I told mommy, and she was pretty supportive of me, and she told me, okay, she's going to ensure that I get Bible study and whatever. And we did that. I scheduled it, I spoke to the lady and everything, and I had a series of studies. I said it to my dad at the time. He was back in Jamaica and he was coming around in my life, and I spoke to him, and he never liked it because he got baptized when he was a little young and it never really worked out too well. So he was like, no, you're too young, I don't agree with it, whatever. Anyways, I went ahead and I did it because he really wasn't my primary caretaker at the time, and I never really needed his permission. So I went ahead and I got baptized. Now, I remember getting baptized and somebody saying to me, this is the beginning of the road. Things aren't going to get easier. A matter of fact, Uncle Newton was the one who said that to me. So if Uncle Newton, if you're watching this, thank you. He said things are not going to get any easier. They're going to get harder. But I want you to know that God will always be there and he'll always protect you. So I felt light. I felt born again. I felt good. I was 12, yeah. I was heading into grade 6. I was going to the GSAT, which is the exam to go into the high school of your dreams. Now, I did well in GSAT. As a matter of fact, I topped the island that year for the government scholars, and I got a scholarship. In this period of time was when I was starting to build a bond with my dad, because remember that he would have lived overseas for a lot of my life. I never really got the opportunity to bond with him. So he would come over and we would play games. He was just kind of coming around trying to know me. I was trying to learn, you know, who this person really is and stuff like that. After GSAT, you hear that, all right, everybody was just so proud of me because I did well, you know, things were good. I got good grades. I got this scholarship. I was going to go to Glenmere High School. That was the top school in Clarendon, and I really wanted to go there. Everything was just going well, and my auntie said to me, okay, I'm going to take you out for the weekend. You're going to come to Portmore and we're going to hang out. For people who are Jamaicans, and especially if you live a country, once you pass ferry, it's town you there. Understand? No, don't take me on. Once you pass ferry, you're the town, right? And so we were there. We did a little fun. We had a little fun. We went places for the weekend. Now this is maybe about Monday, Tuesday. I was still there. She had work. I went to work with her. We came back, and my sister, she called me and she goes, hey Zara, have you heard from daddy? And I go, nope. And she goes, well, I heard he's missing. And I was like, what? But anyways, the night before, I couldn't sleep because I felt something in my spirit, you understand? And she said, well, we can't find him and we don't know where he is. She's like, where's your mother? I told her I wasn't home. Anyways, at that point, I just knew it. I just felt it in my spirit. And she called me back after about 10 minutes. She's like, daddy's dead. And I was like, what you mean? I don't understand. And she goes, they found his body, they killed him. Okay, I knew I was gonna cry. Ooh, hold on. So she said, they killed him, they robbed him, and they killed him, and now his body's on the side of the road, wrapped up in some cloth or whatever, and they're identifying the body and everything. I was 12. This was where everything in my life was coming together. Remember that we're transitioning from having a good ride up until now. And it was supposed to be the time where we would develop this relationship. He was so proud of me. I remember I got this, I was supposed to speak at this presentation at Jamaica for all the kids who passed GSAT for Jamaica, and they wanted me to be the guest speaker for that little dinner, right? And I remember going there. He came, mommy came, and both of them brought me, obviously, because I wasn't driving. I was 12. And he was just so proud of me because he wouldn't have, I got good grades over the years, but he wouldn't have been there. I know this was like in the news and people were talking about it. It was a big deal. So, you know, he got the opportunity to feel that and to see me soaring, if that makes sense. And at this time, I just went numb because I just couldn't understand it. And then I came to the point where I was like, okay, God, you're going to have to help me to deal with this because I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to. But then a peace came over me. And when that peace came over me, I was like, well, God, it must be you. So I was a strong one. I was the one who was saying, well, life is like a vapor. Life is like a vapor. That's just life. That's how it goes. Some people die. Some people are alive. And I was like that for a couple of weeks. And then I kind of went out of it. You know, funeral, you ball, you drop down on the ground. all of those good things. You cry, you mourn, and I went through that experience as well, and I think so. As I transitioned into high school, my father wasn't there, and I started to feel it. I started to feel angry. I was really angry. I was angry with God. I was angry at the men who took him because they stole him from me. And I was like, God, how could you? How could you do this to me? You said I should give my life to you. You said that I need to surrender to you, but how could you take him from me? In a time where I needed him, in a time where I never knew him. All these years he's been away, and no, you stole him. And I was so angry. I was angry at the men who killed him, but I was so much more angry at God because I just felt like there was something that he could do in the moment, And then I started to worry because I was like, I don't know if he got the opportunity to repent, because I don't know what he was going through at the time. I don't know. It's just when somebody is sick and they die, then you kind of have hope in the fact that they would have gotten the opportunity to talk to God, So I was angry. So it moved from being sad and accepting to now just anger. I was just angry. And then I was also experiencing all of this alone. My mother tried to send me to counseling, but I just wasn't having it because I never felt like I needed any counseling. I needed to feel, I needed to go through these things. And God, further on in the story, you'll realize why God needed me to be here. That anger moved from anger to depression. And I got really sad. I got really withdrawn. I was good at school. I put up a good front at school. So for those who probably knew me in those days, you are possibly pretty surprised right now. I feel like, I don't know, if you're here from high school and you know me for something, maybe when I was in first or second form, you can drop it in the comments below. What was I really known for? I know for sure that my classmates, they knew me as somebody who was always smiling, always positive, always giving some stupid jokes that don't make sense, but I would laugh at them myself. And I would be really committed to work. I was always in some leadership position. That was always me. But underneath it all, I was broken. I was still suffering and doing so in silence. And I eventually started spending a lot of time online. Met somebody online. This person was at a space in his life where I shouldn't have been there. Luckily, we never had a lot of face-to-face interaction, so a lot of the correspondences were online. But he caught me in a very vulnerable state at a place where I really needed an outlet. I was sad, I was depressed, I needed meaning, I needed self-worth. I felt as if the world was against me and I was the only one in that little corner. I knew that my mother was there. She was always there and we were really close, and I knew all of this. But somehow the enemy tried to tell me that I was still alone. And then I would have these thoughts. These thoughts would come and say, well, you're an only child. Your siblings, you never really grew up with them. You don't really have a relationship with them. No, your dad's dead. If anything should happen to your mother, then what? And then I started getting involved in a virtual universe, a virtual world life. So this was when IMVU came into the picture, Second Life to a lesser extent. If you used to use IMVU, you can also comment that below. IMVU back then was my jam. It had its benefits such as I met some really wonderful people. Shout out to Mikhail if you're watching this. Love you. Mikhail was also just somebody who I met. He ended up becoming my really good friend in real life. I also was 12, 13, and I was pretending to be 18, 19. So in everybody's head, I was still young, but I was underaged. I was a kid, all right? But I was hanging out with grown folks, having grown folk conversation. But so that depression was channeled into a virtual reality. I was living a literal second life. And let me show you how you can be functionally depressed and you don't even realize. I channeled all of my insecurities. Every single insecurity I had: body insecurity, family insecurity, whatever if I did have any brilliant every insecurity I had, I channeled that and I turned it into my life online. So at the time I was struggling with my height because for some reason I was a little bit too tall, so my avatar was short. I was having body issues at the time because I expected to be curvier at the time, so my avatar was curvy. I had a father in the virtual universe because I wanted a father in real life. Everything. And not only was I doing this, I was also inviting all of my classmates. Up until one time, my teacher had to call my mother that Zara is having the whole class up at night because everybody wasting them time on IMVU at nights. Everybody was doing it for fun, they were doing it for just the experience, but I was deep in. This was therapy. Okay? This was therapy. So those are the benefits, but the disadvantages are greater. And honestly, parents who are watching this, you don't even have to think about what you could have done for your child, because my mother did everything she could have done. Okay? Everything. She even at some point she banned me from the computer. I would just go on her. She was really good at figuring out a lot of this stuff, and I got in trouble a couple of times. But there's little and so much you can do for a teen who's rebellious and have a mind of their own. Trust me. Well, I don't think she understood the extent of it, but she had a general idea. But she also understood that pushing me away was going to be even more damaging. So she just tried her best to be there for me when I needed her. I remember even eating in my room. I wasn't talking. On a Sunday, I was just always in my room. Yeah. And what that did is that it opened a dark world of goth, a dark world of pornography, a dark world of masturbation, a dark world of addictions, a dark world of foul language. Everything that I wasn't in real life, I was in the virtual life. And it started to just reflect on me. I started to want these things. I started to internalize these things. I wasn't interested in church anymore. Remember, no, this is super Zara. This is Zara coming onto her prime. I just never wanted it. And at one point I remember saying to myself, why am mommy forcing me to go to church? Is my life, if I ever want to go to hell, isn't it my choice? Why? I mean, I couldn't say that to her. So, say one box, boom, drop on the ground. But that's how dark I was. That's how low I was at that point. And that's when I got into pornography, masturbation, and all of that hardcore, because remember, I was talking to adults. I wasn't an adult, but they thought I was. So that's when I started reading erotic literature. And I remember one time mommy did find a book and she wasn't having it, and she gone, and I guess in really, really big trouble for that. But it just opened me up to something that I never really knew existed. And I felt lost, and I felt like I couldn't get out of it. I literally felt trapped. I felt like this was taking me over and there was nothing I could do about it, because I would have moved from grief, the stages of grief. I think that's like a literal thing, but I don't really know the science behind it. But I moved from grief, mourning, crying, to anger, to depression, and then this was the release or the acceptance. And I was accepting it boldly, and I was working through life, still getting good grades, still having the opportunity to keep up this front and suffer silently because I felt like nobody would understand, and I felt like I was alone. I also felt like nobody would expect this from me. So who the hell am I going to talk to about these struggles? Nobody. Everybody would have either expected me to be doing A or B, and I just never felt comfortable. I was also battling with the idea that this is not a big deal. People lose their parents all the time. I mean, it's not a big deal. People go through addiction struggles all the time. So you have Zara, you have people who are out there who are hungry. What little thing that you're going through? Nothing. So there are a lot of things that happen in between, but we can't cover everything. But I have to cover that it was at this point that I got a dream from my dad at one of the lowest points in my life. I don't believe in superstition. It could have been God, could have been my subconscious, but I got a dream from him. It was one night when I never wanted to go to church. I was in one of those moods where I was low, and through it all I just kind of ignored God. He was just kind of over there. I never paid him no mind. I went to bed the night pretty annoyed because I think mommy was asking me to come to worship, and I went against my will, and she never pressured me, honestly, and I thank God for it every day, because she gave me the opportunity to find him for myself. And this goes to show that regardless of how low you are in life, your life can still be a blessing and you can still be alive. Because during everything, I was still always trying to do what I could do. I was still going through the motions. Don't give up on life and people when you're going through these phases, because regardless of how dark you are and whatever dark area you're in, your life can be a testimony, and you can do things that will help to equip people. So the dream, I went to bed and dream set, and I saw him in the dream. I don't think I've ever seen him again in my dreams. And he said, I remember saying to him, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm here to take you to church. You need to go. You need to go to church. You need to go to church for me. I messed up, but you can do it, right? Go and find him. Clear as day. Clear as day. And I just woke up the morning. I was like, all right, ready. And I think it was during that same time we were having camps and stuff, and I started to realize that there is more to this Christianity thing. It's more than just going to church. But I never understood how it worked. So I said, all right, in between this, there are always boy trouble. So there's always some boy thing happening. At the time I did have a boyfriend. I was 14, hiding it from my mother, of course. Hold on, let me stop crying like a big baby. Okay, this is really emotional. I never expected it to be so emotional. So at the time, I was still a virgin, and it was something I wore with pride. And for any guy who ever liked me, they can tell you that I always wore it with pride, and my big excuse was always, I'm a Christian. But deep down, it was never that. It had nothing to do with God and what God's standards were for me. It had more to do with the fact that I feel like if I did it, my mother could see through my eye and should be able to see me when I come home and say, listen, you did that. Honestly, for a really long time, that was really my main reason, because I tied that to worth. And I misconstrued the concept of purity. Purity never equated to virginity. So even though I was watching porn, very caught up in masturbation, almost addicted, I was fine. I was just sailing on because my heart was in the right place. And that's why it's so important for your heart to be in the right place. If you're doing stuff because somebody says it, or because your parents are going to be annoyed, or because it might as well you do it. Honestly, because if you sin in your mind, you're sinning. We're going to fast back forward. I just wanted to put that in there, right? Now I said, okay, I'm going to try this whole Christianity thing properly. And I went out and I was like, I'm going to join ISCF at school, which is a Christian club at school. And I am going to try to have more Christian friends. And I opened up and started going to more Christian stuff and tried to have Christian friends. And at that point, I would have broken up with, I wasn't dating anybody at the time. I was 15. So I never nothing serious. Anybody who me date before me at 18, we weren't together. I'm sorry, we were just friends. So there was this guy, and he was a Christian. He was my age, and he liked me, I liked him, but then he introduced me to the whole idea of this relationship with God thing. he was so serious about his walk. Like, we would have the deepest conversations. I'm going to try to see if I can include a screenshot of one of our conversations here, and so you can just see the type of conversations we were having at 15. But we were talking about just how good God is and how we're supposed to be set apart, and in my head I was like, wow. Like, who are you? Where did you come from? Where have you been hiding all this time? You know, this is exactly what I need in my life. I need somebody who's going to help me to grow spiritually. I need more spiritual friends. And if I get a boyfriend that's spiritual, it means that I can keep my virginity. Really. I mean, because remember that at this point, it was a badge. I wear it like a crown. Like right up here. Because I got it all wrong. But then as I started to get to know him, then I started dropping my insecurities again, because me I say, he's not overly exposed, I'm overly exposed. I broke out to people them, son. No, I was the good girl is now the bad girl. The good girl is now I'm now in the space where I'm saying he's way too good for me. He's completely out of my league. Like, so because of that, I was feeling insecure about it. And then my carnal mind, my warped concept of love, and my warped concept of romance, and my warped fleshly sinful concept of what relationships should look like, because my frame of reference is romance novels, blue movie, as we would call them in Jamaica, meaning porn, erotic, anything. I am virtual reality. That was my reference. You know, Hollywood movies. I never read any biblical things. None at all. So my warped reference and my warped idea of what love is was so sinful. It had no basis of friendship. So I used to just stress him out. Like, he was never giving me enough attention. He was never focusing enough on me. He was never making me a priority. What kind of priority did he want to make me at 16 years old? Now I look back, I realize that I had way too high expectations, because at that time, if I was going through the stages as I should have been going through the stages, and if I never jumped in my head to adulthood before time, then I would have been developing progressively in the same way that he was. Well, maybe I would have been a little bit more, because you know, females are a little bit more advanced than males, but I wouldn't have been so demanding. He was not affectionate enough, because what I wanted to do is push all the boundaries, because we have this warped idea of what purity really is. We try to push the boundaries on how far is too far without really getting there, because purity equals virginity, when it shouldn't be like that, because it's not. It's not. Virginity is a physiological thing. It's not physical. Purity, on the other hand, is what God calls us to be at all times, because he wants us and our bodies to represent him in every single thing. So yes, I stress him out big time. And by the time we were there, we were together in high school and stuff, putting up a good front for the most part. He was my best friend. Yeah, best friend. We would have all sorts of conversations and all of these things. And then over time, I realized that this was more of a friendship than a relationship, because of what I saw relationships as. So this was more. So we just worked it out. We just made it flow, right? Most times I was complaining about something, and then we moved into university. And between that summer of going into university, we decided, okay, we're going to call it quits. And trust me, at that summer, what is our God? On the back burner again, because in that time I got to know his God. Okay, I was a third wheeler in that relationship. I kind of knew him ish. We are kind of friends, but I never really knew him for me. I was kind of just leaning on his relationship and pretending that I was better when I wasn't. because through it all I was still addicted. I was still reading all of the erotic stuff. I was still not really having personal worship. We would have like worship together on the phone, but that would be the only time. I was still doing everything that was contrary to what I was supposed to be doing, because I never understood the real purpose. I never had a real why, right? I came into university with all of these big plans. As a matter of fact, the summer before, I bought all hot girl clothes, period. Like, I was going to stay lit, I was going to go to parties, I was going to start drinking, I was going to behave as well as I could. And I even kind of led on this guy to a point, and hopefully him don't have me up for it. I had all these plans, and I went to one party. And Alison can tell us. Alison is my best friend, and she can tell it because she was there with me. I was like a fish out of water. I was so uncomfortable. I never knew. It wasn't that I never knew what to do, but I was just, I found it distasteful. I found everything that they were doing there distasteful. I was like, how can you do that? Like, I'm pretty sure people did annoyed at me being there, because maybe my facial expressions were like, this is like rude. So at that point I realized that this is just not the life that I think I need. It just doesn't fit me. It doesn't fit my core beliefs, you know. And that's why it's so good to raise your kids in a certain way, because I just knew. But as the months came on, I got angry with God again, because I was like, God, things are going good in my life. I was almost knowing you. But then this guy, you make him gone about in business. He was supposed to miss me and come back at this point, but he's not here. Is it because I am not good enough? Is it because then all of these insecurities just came back? And then I started trying to do stuff for God, trying to show up myself so that he would see me and try to feel like, okay, she's a good girl and she don't, I need, you know, you have to show people your worth sometimes. So I did all of the jazz. Then I realized that not work. He would not pay me no man. He never cared. He was really just trying to focus on his relationship with God, and at the time he was really focused on school. So he kind of just ignored me, which was kind of hurtful. And I took it all out on God, because I was like, God, this is all your fault. You know, you should have stopped this. So I was still doing what I was doing. Felt hooked. Felt like I couldn't come out of that space. Dark space again. Really dark space. And I was like, God. Then I found Advent Fellowship properly. If you understand the meaning of this cup, I just want you to drop it in the comments below. Wherever, even if you commented already. If you understand the meaning of this cup to me, I want you to drop it in the comments below. I felt changed my life, and it might seem small, and that's why I'm such a big proponent of ensuring that the people you have around you are solid. Because when I went to Advent Fellowship, which is really a group of Christians on UI's campus, they're Seventh-day Adventists, because I'm Seventh-day Adventist, but it had nothing to do with church, but everything to do with a relationship with God. And it was so liberating and so freeing. And somebody who is so good to me, and somebody who I have disappointed so many times, can look on me and love me, can look on me and provide, can look at me when I'm going to UE and I don't have the $1.3 million to pay over Faculty of Law, can look at me and forgive me of my sins. And I went to the first retreat, and the first retreat was total surrender, all or nothing. And guys, no cap, I know I go get emotional saying this, because I get emotional every time I think about it. We went to the river, not the river, the other body part, the other body of water, the sea. We went to the sea, and one of the activities was to write what you're struggling with, and you're going to put it in like something. I think we're going to put it on a stone and burn it. Okay, write on a paper, put it on a stone and burn it. And the pastor took up that stone. So the pastor took up the stone, right, after we burn our struggles on it. And I remember putting it clearly, pornography and masturbation, because those were the two big things that were keeping me from totally surrendering. Because every time I felt like, listen, I want to go to God, I felt guilty, I felt dirty, I felt sinful, I felt so far, and it would keep me in a cycle. Okay, it would keep me in a cycle because I would feel bad, then I stay far from him, then I get further from him because I'm not really connecting with him, and because I'm not feeding my spirit, and I go further and further and further away, and it would go over and over again. And as soon as I would come close, I would fall into the trap again, and then I would feel far away, so I wouldn't want to come because I feel like I'm inadequate. And I felt like, and I remember clear as day writing them on the paper, and the pastor threw that stone in the paper, and it was just the most phenomenal, it was just most spiritual experience I've ever been through. Because Micah 7 verse 19 tells us that God has cast our sins in the deepest part of the sea. Like, gone, done. And to see that represented physically was just everything I needed at that point in my life. And friends, when me telling us, say, me literally just pick up my shoes and I just ran into the arms of Jesus. Since then, I haven't been perfect. I'm not going to tell us I'm going to drop 1 and 2 times. I'm not going to tell us I'm going to click on me never supposed to click 1 and 2 times and so. But it has just been so liberating because I broke out of doing stuff because the church told me to. I broke out of doing stuff because I felt like it was the right thing to do, but actually doing stuff because I really wanted to be the best version of myself, because that's what God requires of me. Understanding true freedom in Christ is the best thing ever. And from then, I've just been trying, and this is why I do what I do. This is why I try to share joy. I thrive. Woo! This is why I try to spread joy. This is why I try to spread optimism. This is why I want you to break free from chains, break free from shame, from guilt, break free from depression, break free from anxiety. I'm not even talk about the anxiety part because that's just way too much. But to break free from everything that's keeping you bound, just because you feel as if you can't come out. God has a plan for your life, but you have to want it. You have to go after it. He gave us choice. And I always say this when somebody says, suppose God isn't real, and I would say to you that if he's real, just for instance, I know he's real, but if he's not real and the end comes, then okay, we die, we perish. I would just, that this is it. But I would have lived a good life. I would have lived a good quality of life, because I just don't see the benefits of living in sin. Honestly, I don't see the benefits of not having peace, not having joy, not having true contentment, just doing what you can, realizing that if everybody tries to fill a gap. You're born with an innate desire to feel, to have make some sense of life, belonging. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about finding to fill a gap, no purpose, no sense, because I serve a God who has proven to me over and over again that he has a purpose for me. But then if he is real, which I genuinely believe he is and have faith that he is, when he comes again, we have the opportunity to live with him forever. So, to the young Christian who's struggling with any of these things or more, whether it be porn, whether it be grief, whether it be anger, whether it be depression, whether it be going through cycles, whether it be suicide. I've never had suicide, thankfully, but I've known people who have gone through it. And if God can take them through it, God can take you through it too. If you're in a dark space in your life, or if you're in a period where you feel as if God's not hearing you, he's not listening to you, keep talking, boo-boo. He hears you. If you feel chained, if you feel attacked, if you feel attached to a sin, if you feel as if you can't do without it, if you feel that there's nothing that you can do to stop yourself, if you feel as if you've lost all inhibition and self-control, God can fix it. How do I know this? Because if he fixed me, the deepest point in my life when I was the furthest away from him, he can fix you too. I actually wrote a 7-day purity devotion, like a kickstart to your purity series last year, and I remember somebody saying to me, I like it, I love it, it's very intimate, but it's not as detailed. Now this is the backstory behind that devotional. I really wanted to help somebody else because I knew that it took me a little while to get through it, and I wanted to ensure that I could reach out to people and it helped. I think I have over 300 downloads, which is beautiful, because to know that 300 persons actually read something that I wrote is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to know that it could, out of that 300, if it helps one, that's fine. That's all I want, just one. So if this video only helps one person, I would have been fine. You can grab the purity devotional down below. I'll put it in the link. It's free. It's 7 days. It won't solve your problems in 7 days, but it will help you along the journey. So I'll be doing a little purity mini series. In my next video, I'll be speaking about whether masturbation is wrong, why it is not wrong. And then in the follow-up video, I'll be speaking about ways to get over pornography, masturbation addictions. I'll be giving you resources. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for sitting down and listening to my story. Thank you so much for chilling with me. Thank you so much for listening to me bawl, listening to all of the jazz. Thank you so much for just sticking to me. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead, hit the like button, share with a friend, as together we grow and we embrace what it really means to have freedom in Christ, and what it means to have a personal one-on-one relationship with him. Love, joy, peace, and pure contentment. Bye. Thanks for watching.